a lot of families may not be familiar with your testimony. I mean, your testimony is full of some very deep, deep valleys and also some really, really cool mountaintops. Can you share with us a little bit more about your testimony?
Sure. I think that we all experience the highs and the lows of life. And, growing up in an Amish culture on a farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, with parents that loved me. And all 8 of us kids knew that we were loved by our parents and the things that they did for us in a very poor community. Really have to tell you, gave us a very, very strong foundation to weather the storms of life. It was never about money. It was always about family, God, faith, community, and my mom and dad working really hard. And it was during those years my theology was formed. Life is good. I didn't know what I didn't know. And life is good. And I believed that God was somehow harsh, because I believed if I keep all of the 10 commandments and follow him and do it really, really well, that he would be pleased with me. And, I would have a good life. And I have to tell you, I've had a good life, but I've learned along the way, over 7 decades of real life's experiences, my theology has changed. Today, what I know is life is hard. God is good. And no matter what happens to us, if we truly believe that he is good, we'll get through the darkest night of the soul. And I just love that God has been a part of my life. And even though I believed at one point in my life, because of the things that happened to me and our family, that there was really no more grace left. I knew there was enough for the whole world, but I wasn't sure there was enough of grace left for Anne Beiler.
That is a deep valley, and I would hope that you could really unpack what happened with your daughter, and then what later was even just as much of just a terrible, terrible event that happened after you were seeking
Yes.
counseling. I would love for you to unpack your testimony and share with us. I know it's probably hard to do, to go through that valley once again.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, really, because I know that God has called my husband and I both to share our story for God's glory, because really, how do people know how good God is unless we share with them our stories, our lives, and the deepest and darkest parts of who we are? There was a time when I really didn't want to tell anyone about what happened to me, and then what happened through me as a result of the trauma in my life. And because there was too much pain, blame, and shame and guilt. But today, I'm just thrilled, Andrew, that I'm able to share my story with the world, and whoever will listen
Yes.
will see the glory of God. And it's possible for anyone in a very dark place today. There is hope for tomorrow. Jonas and I were married at a very young age, and we both, our only dream really was, we never really talked about career, or we never went through the ranks of academia, like into higher education,
Self-taught.
formal education. But we learned on the farm how to teach yourself, and so we took that with us into the business world. So, but before Auntie Anne's, we were married, had 2 beautiful daughters, and life was good. And I knew that God was really, he had to be pleased with me. I was doing everything just right, and found Jesus when I was 12, and wanted him to bless our lives, and we were living our dream. And we were youth pastors at a very exciting church at that time, and everything changed for us. So, and really, Andrew, we're never prepared for tragedy or trauma in our lives ever. It doesn't matter how much you've seen it or heard it or felt it around you, but when it happens to you, it changes us. And so our second daughter, Angela Joy, was a joy, and she was 19 months old, and she really was a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl. And the love of our family for the 19 months that she was with us, and it was on a Monday morning that she was taking her little walk up to my mom's house, which was on the same property, just a few hundred feet from our double-wide trailer. And my sister, who was driving a front-end loader, loading and unloading, same with my dad. At that time, there was a barn between us, and but it was a very safe environment, we thought, and it was in the country, and But that particular morning, my sister did not see. She looked around to make sure there was no one around, and she didn't see Angela right behind her, behind the Bobcat tractor. And she backed up, and when she went to move forward, she realized that she had driven over Angie accidentally, and she was killed instantly. That changed everything for me. For my theology, life is good, God is harsh. I'm doing everything all right. Angela's ascent into heaven was immediate. Like, we know that. But my slow and gradual descent into a world of spiritual confusion and emotional pain was a world I knew nothing about. But I knew in that moment, I began to question God, like, why did you allow this to happen to us? And so that question, there were no answers. I continued, continued going to church every Sunday. And, back in the day, we weren't able really, I don't know, it just wasn't okay. We felt like to talk about our sadness and our grief. And the longer time went on, the deeper my grief got and the wider Jonas and I's relationship. We were no longer able to communicate and connect in any way.